In Keats's Ode to the Nightingale, notice the sadness that the poet feels very sad, just like, here with the bird, the sense that the song is so sad and yet the bird is happy. And I'm thinking back to those Shelley poems with the bird, the fascination with the bird's happiness. Here with Keats, my heart aches and a drowsy numbness. Notice this sense of numbness, as though of hemlock there, or some dull opiate. I feel like I had taken some kind of sedative, that I've had some kind, of drink, that I'm just numb. And notice here, numb. Keats has been through so much pain. He hurts so much, has hurt so much, that it just all feels painful. Rather like we saw back with Coleridge, when he was so dejected, that sense of numbness. Well, here Keats says, it's like I had drunk something. There at line 5, 'tis not through envy of thy happy lot, but he's listening to this bird that's singing this absolutely gorgeous song. That says they're too happy in thy happiness. I'm sitting here under this tree. It's dark, and his own emotions are numb, but he listens to the birds sing. And stanza 2, oh, I just wish I had a draft of vintage. Again, the sense there, we're invoking things like alcohol, like I wish, but notice particularly, it's not alcohol, that I would like tasting of flora. The image here, tasting of the beauties of poetry, of imagination. They're the blushful Hippocrene. They're that joyful poetry, that I might drink and leave the world unseen. I'd like to just vanish. I'd like to go away with you on your beautiful song. There, stanza 3, fade far. I'd like the sense here, very much a kind of death wish. I wish I could just fade, dissolve, and particularly a forget wish. I wish I could just go away. And notice there that if I could just forget, if I could just glide out, that sense there, you've never known this kind of sorrow. There, the weariness, the fever, and the fret. Keats has just watched his brother die of tuberculosis. It's a disease that also killed his mother, and it's one that will kill Keats. So he's nursed him through this. He's watched that. I wish I could just forget how tiresome this world is. All these things here, and that image here where men sit. He sat by his bed. He's heard him groan. In a world where people die, and you have to watch that happen. Where palsy, they get sick, and then they get old and they die. Where youth, here, his brother Tom had been young, and they are watching him just waste away, that specter thin, turning into a skeleton, just watching that process happen. And that next line, where but to think is to be full of sorrow, here, it hurts even to think. There's so much sadness here. The idea of line 29, beauty, everything dies. Beauty fades. Beauty is so wonderful, but it can't keep that beauty. That's gonna die and decay too, and his pain in that. Stanza 4, away, away, hey bird, I'm gonna fly away with you. And it's not going to take alcohol to do it. It's not going to take Bacchus, there, the god of wine, or his leopards. I'm not going to, fly away in some chariot with him. No, I'm going to go on the viewless wings of poesy. I'm going to head, poetry, imagination itself here. I'm flying away with you. And there, notice by line 35, already with thee. Hey, I'm gone. I've left this chair sitting here under this tree. I'm out there on the bird song imaginatively. I'm with you, and notice there about those trees, here there is no light. It's just once in a while, like the light from the moon and stars when the breeze blows. Once in a while, he gets a little glimmer of that light, through the trees. Stanza 5, and here we start seeing the synesthesia really come through. I can't see the flowers. It's dark here, but hey, I can smell those flowers. And since those flowers are there through my sense of smell, I can visualize those are musk roses. Those are violets. Those are that he can, even though he can't see them, he's able to know what they are, able to visually, so as I sit there, that image embalmed, is that not a beautiful word for a, a poem that has this death wish? But that embalmed darkness, ooh, I smell that wonderful odor here, the sweetness here of these flowers at his feet. Stanza 6, notice there, I'm in the dark, but this isn't the first time I've been there, that image, half in love, but it's easeful death. That, I'd love for death just to come softly and easy. Not anything like what he's observed with his brother Tom. And so I've written poems about death and to death, kind of half flirting with it. Line 55, now more than ever seems it reached that, right now, I'd really like to just die. And that image there, though, how he wants to die, to cease upon the midnight with no pain, for it to be absolutely easy, for it just to go away. And to do that while you're singing this gorgeous, beautiful, it may be sad in its tone, but it's such a happy, such a beautiful song, just to fade away while you're in such ecstasy. Bird, you would just keep singing, and I'd just fade away. I'd just die, and it would happen really quietly. It would be really easy, and it would even be hard to tell when it happened. Stanza 7. Hey, bird, I may be a mortal man. I am going to die. Everything around me dies, but you have been around for centuries and centuries. You have kept, and as we think of the birds, the nightingales throughout the centuries have sung the very same song, just like other kinds of songbirds. The mockingbird has kept its song. That sense of the bird as immortal and eternal. You weren't born for death. You have kept alive. Your song has continued, through the centuries, even there, in ancient days, that selfsame song, when Ruth was really sorrowful and she was trying to make a living after the death of her husband there, the biblical Ruth and homesick, there in another country, you were still singing then. Your song was still beautiful. Even there, in Fairyland's Forlorn, he says, you've existed. And notice stanza 8. Here he has been with the bird. He's been imaginatively part of that bird song. But what calls him back? Notice it's the very thought of the word forlorn. Quite a sad word. That word brings me back. I think the sad word, what makes your imaginative dream end? When does your daydream stop? Your vision? For Keats here, is that word forlorn, reminds him, oh no, my life's not happy. I'm not actually with this bird. I'm brought, and there, adieu, goodbye, hey, the fancy, the imagination doesn't last forever. It can't cheat that long, but it's brought me back, adieu. And there, as he's, line 75, notice as he's listening, the bird's song is fading farther and farther away. The bird's flying away. The song's going away from him. Or that question there, 79, wait, has the bird song faded or has Keats died? And the bird's still singing, he just can't hear him anymore. Was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is that music. Wait, I don't hear it anymore. Do I wake or sleep? Am I dead or am I alive? Which is more real? The imaginative dream or life itself? On from that one to Ode on a Grecian Urn. no piece of pottery that we actually know exists like this, but it kind of combines several things from Greece. As we look at it, pay attention to the pictures and the pictures' connection to some kind of, again, Keats' yearning for permanence and his sense of his own impermanence. That here as he looks at this old vase, and some of the pictures are like that image there, thou still unravished bride of quietness. You know, we're going to see a bride in the picture who hasn't been ravished, but also here, as we look at the urn itself, they hear this beautiful vase still surviving. Let's look at a few of the pictures, and then some of the lines in stanza 1 will link directly with those pictures on the urn. Stanza 2 mentions heard melodies are sweet, but hey, can't you imagine a better song than any song you've ever heard? Or here as he looks at this picture of this piper, he's imagining that unknown, that has to be a more beautiful tune than any I've ever heard. And so they keep playing, pipe to the spirit. Inside, I'm hearing the most gorgeous melody ever. And that little piper, that fair youth sitting under the tree, he's never gonna stop playing his music. Would you ever like just to continually keep playing your music? And also his song will always be new. His trees, there he's sitting under a tree, and we also get more of him in stanza 3. And those happy boughs. The tree's never going to shed its leaves. It's always going to be springtime there in that picture on the urn. And he's ever piping happy songs. It'll never end. A second picture there on the urn. As we look there at line 17, the bold lover, never canst thou kiss. We've got the picture of pursuit here. We got the guy and gal about to kiss. Line 19, don't grieve. You haven't kissed her. You're just about to kiss. The kiss hasn't happened. But at least they're always in that wonderful moment of anticipation. It's never over. They're line 20, forever, but they never kiss. And yet they're always just about to kiss. Forever wilt thou love, and she's never going to get old and ugly. She's always going to be gorgeous, just like she is there now on the vase. There at line 25, that's even happier than that little piper. The happy, happy love, still waiting to be enjoyed, forever painting, forever young. That's still there. That image there, it's all breathing human passions far above. It's better than any ordinary love. It's never going to end. It's never going to fade away. It's never going to have ugly things afterward. It's always that moment of anticipation. A third scene, stanza 4. Here's an image of religious worship. So we've got the artist piping. We've got the lovers about to kiss. Now, as we look at these images, think too about how they speak to human passion. Here, here's worship. So our art, our love, and our worship. Here, all these people, it's an image of a priest leading a group, with a heifer beside them, and off, they're always on their way to worship. It's never over. And their little town there, line 37, is always empty. They've always gone to the sacrifice, but they never get there and they never come back. And this little town is forever empty, waiting for its people to return. But that image there, always in anticipation. Here, the piping always continuing. As we look there, back up in the first stanza in line 5, what leaf-fringed legend. There we've had the piper, we've had deities or mortals, are these people human or both? Men and gods, maidens loth, ooh, did the girl not want to be kissed? What mad pursuit, they're our lovers. Pipes and timbrels, we're going there to the sacrifice. What wild ecstasy. All those images. Stanza 5, one of the most puzzled over stanzas in literature. This cold pastoral. And is it, what's it speaking? Beauty is truth, truth, beauty. Is that